Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again today. My name is Michelle Morris, and I'm with Consolidated Planning Group. We are a special needs focused financial planning firm. We're here in Houston, Texas, but we serve families all across the United States. We have a fantastic presentation for you today about, caregiver burnout. That's a big, big deal. And all of the parents that we work with have loved ones with different needs in their lives. And so we're going to be talking with Isabel today about, some things you can do, how you can counteract some of that burnout, and how her company can help you with that. Before I turn things over, I just want to go over kind of the housekeeping and then a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group. My mouth was going faster than my brain for a second. Um, I want you to know that because we cannot see you or hear you, putting your comments and questions in the chat box is going to be the best way for us to present the material and be able to see your questions and respond to those. I also want you to know that we do record all of our webinars as we're presenting them, and then we put them on our YouTube channel. So later on today, if you have registered previously for this webinar, you'll get an email that has a link to the YouTube channel. It will also have the slides from today's presentation. If you're on the YouTube channel or maybe listening on our podcast, you're not going to have that unless you reach out to us directly. You can email us, contact@cpgcares.net. That's contact@cpgcares.net. And we will go ahead and make sure you get those slides from the presentation. So, Consolidated Planning Group, again, what we aim to do is marry kind of the financial advising plus the special needs consulting all in one. We help families figure out what they need to do for their loved ones and when, and what the process looks like for applying for benefits or resources. Also, with financial advice like life insurance and investments and planning for retirement. Um, we've been doing this for over 30 years. We are fully licensed in investments and securities. We are parents. All four financial advisors at Consolidated Planning Group are parents to individuals with needs. And we also take it another step further by being chartered special needs consultants, certified Social Security advisors, and we're members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. I see a nice note in the chat box. I wish your firm had an office here in Dallas, Fort Worth. But the thing is that we work virtually because, it works well for us to use Zoom for our meetings. We don't have to worry about families with immunocompromised kids getting our COVID germs. We don't have to worry about families whose children need constant care, trying to find a sitter for their loved ones when they come to visit us or have to come travel to our offices. So it does work out well for us in some areas. Now, people come to us for things like lifetime care plans and protection planning, transition planning, ABLE accounts. What vehicles can you have money saved for your loved one in? What I like to say is, very often with our clients, we see one spouse, if the parents are together and married, we see that one spouse maybe focuses more on the financials, and that spouse is usually the one who is a little bit more analytical and they know everything about the household finances. And then the other spouse maybe knows everything about the special needs side of what their child needs. So what we do is we try to make sure that both spouses have the information that they need. They know how to marry those two sides and what to do if one is gone, how we can help the other one. So, and it's pretty rare. that we focus on special needs planning as financial advisors because out of 263,000 financial advisors across the United States, less than a tenth of a percent of those, fewer than 200, focus on special needs planning like we do. A couple of quick tips and things to think about as you're beginning your journey. The time to plan is now. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past or have not done, or how old your child is. The sooner that you can start planning, the better, because you're going to have a longer runway to make small incremental changes in your life and in your plan that are going to have a larger impact. We do think that you should start thinking about what's going to happen after high school. When my child is no longer in school, are they going to graduate to the couch? Are they going to go out and look for work? There are many different vocational options. There are fantastic summer camps and day programs, transition programs, residential options for their future. And there's even educational programs out there that are meant to be suitable for our kids. So think about those things and plan early. Some of them might have a wait list. Some of them, you definitely want to tour the possibilities and the opportunities that are out there before making a decision. Finally, one last big piece of advice from us is that it's important just to be very careful when you're thinking that a sibling is going to be willing or able to jump in and become a caregiver once you're gone. You know how hard it is. Some people say that the best gift that they can give their children is to make sure that their loved one with needs is planned for and taken care of. Um, it could create a sense of resentment from that caregiving sibling because, of course they want to help. They love their brother or sister. They love you. They want to be there. But when the time comes, it's a lot. And they might find that they've bitten off more than they can chew, but they feel that sense of obligation. From the other perspective, think about little Jacob. His sister has been his best buddy, his partner in crime. They have fun together, they're best friends, but now all of a sudden that sister wants to step into the role of caregiver. That might feel a little bit to Jacob as though his sister is trying to be in control or be in charge or be mom. And that can create some resentment as well. So in the ideal world, yes, that would be a great situation, but it doesn't always work out as expected. So, again, yes, we're recording. Yes, you will receive these slides. Please put any questions and comments in the chat box. And I am going to turn everything over to Isabel to talk about her company and about helping caregivers who are dealing with burnout. So, Isabel, thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate that you're here.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have me here. Um, and for everybody who joined, I see that we have 33 people who have joined. So thank you so much for taking the time and being here. I want to start with a question. Please feel free to use the chat box because I would love to hear from you, even if it's through the chat box. How many of you feel guilty in regards to caregiving? Um,
Hey.
yeah, yeah, right? Yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that is a tough feeling, right? Um, I became a caregiver when I was 20, so I was pretty young. My dad passed away suddenly, and from one day to another, I found myself that everything, all the responsibility from caring for my mom, who at the time had cancer, figuring out how to finish someone's affairs after their passing, closing a business, and just trying to survive. That was sort of my goal back when I was 20. And and yes, the understanding of guilt is very tough. And there
Mm,
was a point in my life in which I didn't feel I felt guilty of getting married and moving somewhere else.
mhm.
My guilt was, how am I going to leave my mom alone? How am I going to move somewhere else to another country, start a new life, and leave her alone when I've been with her for 15 years? And that feeling was so rough for me. And I was just brave enough to do it with a lot of guilt, but I was brave enough to do it. So I want to ask another question. Is there anything particular in your life that you would like to change? If nobody would get mad at you, if nobody would say anything to you, if if all of these ifs, if all of if nothing would happen, what is something that you would change in your life? You are free to use the chat, or if you feel brave enough to do it, or if you want to share with us,
Maybe
feel
just think about it.
yeah, take a few moments to think about something that you would really want to change.
I can think of several things. hmm People want to retire. People mentioned earlier wanting to get out more, wanting to sleep more, having some quiet and some rest. I would love to read more.
Sleep.
Oh, to be an empty nester. hmm
So when we think about all of these things, um, that's when we know that there's like this huge desire of doing something, but then we're going to upset someone, or someone might reply to us, or someone might be rude to us. All of these things, when we know that's going to happen, that's when you know that you need to build boundaries. And we, all of us, um, being caregivers or not, we all need to build boundaries. As women, we have been socialized to be perfect. And the truth is that, yes, you need to find a part-time caregiver, yes. And yeah, sorry, I'm reading all of your comments. So, building these new boundaries, Lisa, I can feel you being as a new stepmother for a Downs adult. Like that is super hard, and I recommend we all build boundaries. What are boundaries? Boundaries are things that protect our own well-being. So we build boundaries in our homes. We have fences, we have walls. Um, if we go to the bathroom, we close the door. That's a boundary, right? For those of us with small children or dogs, that boundary is never there, right?
That you added and dogs because I have a big dog and boy, he is so curious every time I move. Where are we going, Mama? He needs some boundaries.
Uh, and we, how do we build those boundaries? I'm going to tell you the hard truth, and that is that they're hard to build. People are going to get mad at us. People are going to be upset at us. Um, Before we started this conversation, I was telling Michelle about an interview that I had with a career coach, and she was saying how one of her clients had her mom had stopped to her after building a boundary. So, um, I think I'm all over the place with the slides. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Um, so how do we build those boundaries? Well, first of all, we need to identify what the boundary is, what we would like other people to respect. If we want to be able to sleep, then we need to build a boundary maybe around a nap or maybe about going to bed at certain time. Or if we want to go out and have a social life, maybe we have to share that responsibility with another person. Maybe that person is our spouse or someone else or parents. The important thing is that we build that boundary and we need to work with those thoughts because the hardest part of this is knowing that there's gonna be pushback. People are gonna be mad, they're gonna be upset, they're gonna be saying, like, hey, no, you were doing this. And the reason there's this pushback is because people like other people being responsible. They like us being responsible. They like us being the one being in charge and them not having to figure things out. When my dad passed away, the first holiday season, everybody agreed to come for Christmas and the New Year's, that's all on you. Trample my boundary completely. You're completely responsible of making sure that mom is happy, safe, and enjoying a holiday when there is four kids. And the same happens if we have um, disabled children with any disability. We're just expected to care for them 24/7, and we don't even know when it's time for us. So we need to, once we have identified that, we need to know who that person is. And I'm going to circle back into difficult conversations because that's where the magic is. This internal conflict of feeling guilt of leaving. For me, it was getting married. For some of you, maybe you feel guilt about leaving home or finding a babysitter that could care for your children. Um, Whatever that boundary is, identify it and then work on it. What do you want? What you're expecting? And I'm going to circle back about that conversation that is going to help you build that boundary. And I'm going to leave that to the end because there is another part of this. Michelle talked about planning, and Michelle and all her team work their magic, and literally they work their magic
Oh, thank you.
in building a plan that will support your children. Being a caregiver, when I started my journey as a caregiver, and probably I don't identify myself with a lot of you because my caregiving journey has been very different. I don't have a disabled children, so I don't know how that looks like for me. But I know that being a caregiver is tiring, overwhelming. You don't stop. Nobody say thanks.
Mhm.
But if you stop doing that, then people do notice. If there's not a meal, people notice that there was not a meal. Or even if it was a frozen pizza, why are we having frozen pizza today when I do like my made from scratch pasta? Um, and it is just over and over and over, tons of things to do. And that's where the planning it's so important. Knowing what to do and what to expect is crucial. And we need to plan for several things. First, we need to plan for the care that we're going to be giving our loved ones. So, Michelle, if you're wondering how that works financially, talk with Michelle, talk with her team. They are wonderful. That is one part and a sliver of the pie. Another sliver of the pie is planning for joy. So, someone mentioned playing pickleball. So, what are other things that bring you joy? If you can just share with us, that would be wonderful. What are things that bring you joy?
Well, for me, it's definitely going to concerts and enjoying live music, dancing like a fool. It really helps. Susan, that's exactly my answer. Concerts and roller coasters. Yes, walking outside and camping and reading and shopping. Oh, yeah.
So, when we're doing our plan, we need to plan for for those things.
Mhm.
We need to plan time to go outside for a walk, to go camping, to go to concerts, and we need to plan to experience joy every single day. We're not going to a concert every single day. Maybe Michelle can afford that. I can't. Um, but we need to plan for feeling that joy every single day. And some things you plan with Michelle, some others you just have to know what it is. Maybe you really, maybe you experience joy by stretching every day in the morning and going for a walk outside. And that has to be part of your routine. That has to be part of the things that you do. Um, maybe you love candles. I love candles. And when I really want to to make my experiences really great, um, I turn on a candle when I'm taking a shower. That
Oh,
for me
nice.
feels luxurious. And that you don't plan for those kinds of things with money, but you have to know what brings you joy and make sure that you live it every single day. So, in my example of experiencing a candle, I always have candles at home that I can turn on. Um, the first thing for me is to know that my child who has special needs is well looked after and taken first, and then I would like to enjoy a dinner with my best friend, and a concert would be great too. Holly, I'm delighted um with what you wrote, and I feel this is how all of us feel. We need to know
Mhm.
that everything is taken care of, and then I put myself. Today, I'm inviting you to turn things around. Today, I'm inviting you to be a little bit selfish and put yourself first. And this is not selfish. And I'm using this word because we feel selfish. We feel that when when we're experiencing all this joy, we don't necessarily uh, and we do something for us, then it's like how there I'm experiencing all this joy, and I left my child with a new um with a new babysitter and I'm worrying.
Mhm.
um well, maybe we just need to let things go for a little bit and say, yes, I've been caring for my child for 8 years and I deserve a night out today with my best friend and talking about everything and nothing and laughing and just being out there. So, this is why planning for joy is so important because we always put ourselves last. We forget that it is so important for us to be ourselves. And I'm not saying this lightly because I feel this all the time. Um, and we feel guilt and we feel that we're responsible, but it is nonstop. So if we don't carve out and build those boundaries to experience joy, it's going to be nonstop suffering for us because it's guilt on top of guilt on top of guilt, and then we burn out.
Well, and it's exactly like, they always say on the airplanes, you've got to put your own mask on first before you put your mask on your child. What else do we always hear? You can't pour from an empty cup. But I feel like as caregivers, we are just programmed to keep pouring and keep giving and keep doing. And eventually, that does build up. And that's where so many people become burnt out. And then it's worse off than if you had just taken a few breaks and worked in those moments of joy. And it doesn't have to be concert every night. It can be those smaller things, those small moments where you find joy in your heart, joy in your everyday surroundings. One thing I heard in a recent conference I attended, a women in financial planning conference, and this lady said that you should give yourself a sigh five instead of a high five. You're taking 10 big or five big deep breaths and sighing them out. And just the feeling of that, the time it takes to just recenter yourself, even those little things are moments that you're giving to yourself that we don't even really think about. So try to think of those little things, the candles while I mean, that doesn't take away from anyone else. That's not something that takes a lot of time. You're adding something special to what you're already doing. Look for those moments of joy. Bring this spark, like this slide shows, all this sparkle back into your life.
So what are things that you could do? And this is really hard for us to know. When I talk with women, we all have a lot of hobbies that we don't do.
Mhm.
We like knitting, playing mahjong. Um, we like all these things that we don't do. So I would like for you to think about something that is a very, very little. So when we're planning all these things, we're planning to go to the concert, we're putting like the huge picture out there. And to make it happen, it feels huge, right? When even saying reading, or napping, I always recommend starting small. So how do you start small? There is this book, Tiny Habits, and there's Atomic Habits. If you haven't read those books, I recommend that you read them, or at least watch a video on those. And if not, you're here, so I'm gonna give a little bit of of how to do this. Because when we want to incorporate something new into our lives, um, it feels insurmountable. And and there are times that the things are not hard. Um, there are times that it's like brushing our teeth and it feels impossible, right? It's like a whole day passed and I didn't brush my teeth, or a whole day passed and we and I we're right now that we're finishing February. How are we doing with our New Year's resolutions? So, what I want you to do when you're incorporating these joy and planning for that joy is to break it into the smallest, possible thing that you can do. So napping, reading, crocheting, whatever it is, what is the tiniest, easiest thing that you could do to bring that joy? So maybe playing pickleball, that would take you 2 hours to play pickleball. Or maybe you would like to nap for 8 hours. Um, yes, maybe you would like to nap a full night of sleep. Whatever it is, but try to break it into the tiniest thing that you can do. Um, and the tiniest thing that you can do, I want you to link it to another habit that you already have. So, for example, if you shower every single day and you love candles, so I'm putting my example, or if you want, I can use another example. Um, like I can go with reading. For those of you who'd like to have more time to read or crochet or doing anything at home, one of the things that you can do is to crave time for that. So, what is the tiniest thing that you can do? If you want to read, probably you want to choose a book and then leave it out there. And then you're gonna link it with another thing. So let's say that you would like to read more, and every night you have dinner, and then um, you put the dishes away, and you're gonna leave that book right there on the pantry where you can see it on top of the dishwasher. And once you're done with the dishes, you're going to allow yourself to take that book and sit down. You don't have to read. You only have to acknowledge that book and sit down. And that is your tiny habit. And after doing that, after putting the dishes away, taking that book and sitting down, you're going to celebrate. You're going to celebrate yourself because you did it. And eventually you're going to stay and you're going to read one page. But the idea is for you to make it so small that it's easy. You can actually take that book and sit down. And when you're celebrating that tiny, tiny, tiny thing that you didn't read a full chapter, you didn't read at all. You only took a book and sat down. Um, but that is what builds those habits, and that's how you build joy into your life. So try yourself to think about ways in which you can do it and repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And the magic of this is that when you link a habit to another one, it builds automatically. So if you're building that joy into your life and you you're connecting with yourself, you build one thing upon another one. And one day you're gonna cut yourself reading for a full hour. The
Yeah.
magic of this
And
is
I think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say that another thing, creating these habits and doing, it might sound silly a little bit to think about, oh, well, I took a book and sat down with it. That didn't really help me very much. But like you said, you build that little thing and hopefully your loved ones will see, well, every day after she does the dishes, she grabs that book and sits down with her book. Maybe I should give her 5 minutes. Maybe we can extend that next week to 10 minutes. Maybe I should give him an hour, after this or that. It will help them learn those boundaries by you taking those small steps. And another thing I was thinking about, you mentioned you love your candles, so you light the candle while you're doing something else you already do every day, like taking a shower. For me and other people who mentioned music and concerts, I find joy by I really don't love cooking dinner, but I find joy by turning on my stereo while I'm cooking or playing a song or a game with Alexa where called Song Quiz, where she plays snippets of songs. I just make my own concerts in my kitchen because I know that, you know, it's expensive and it's time consuming and I do feel guilt when I do things for myself. So I try to incorporate like you with the candles and the shower, maybe the music while you're cooking dinner or folding laundry or creating games with your children of they can match socks while you get a chore done or something like that. Maybe those types of things would be helpful too. Your mom is beautiful, by the way. I see where you get your beauty.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. You're so nice. Um, and talking about it, maybe you want to build a boundary about dinner. If that is something that you really don't like doing, maybe you can delegate dinner to somebody else.
Hmm.
Maybe it's time your kids start learning how to um make dinner.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is the beauty about building boundaries, that you can build a boundary, whatever it is, and let other people take over the things that you don't like. Um,
I love Tracy's idea. She's building her
yeah,
reading into doing something for her child, which is allowing him to have time to decompress after he comes home from school. Many people find that that's a moment where our kids need time because they've been holding it together all day and they come home to their safe space and now we're like, okay, now you've got to do chores and feed the dog and um, start working on your homework. She gives her child time to decompress after school and takes a little bit of that time for herself to read until he's ready. I love that.
yes, find a moment for you. And if your child needs to decompress, you decompress at the same time. Um, I know some kids need more support than others, but um, try to find that time for you because otherwise we burn out. Um, and this statistic doesn't work for probably doesn't work for many of you because you have children, but caregivers taking care of aging adults or for adults, around 50% of those caregivers pass before the patient, given all the stress that we manage while being a caregiver. So let's not be part of that statistic and let's take care of ourselves.
Love
And
that.
finally, I want to talk about I'm the worst because I never follow my presentations. I'm sorry about that, Michelle. Um,
It's okay.
let's talk about conversations. So, what are things that we need to do? We have talked about building joy in our lives and finding those times for ourselves, and we have talked about boundaries. And let me tell you something, none of this is going to happen if you're not brave enough to have a difficult conversation. Um, okay, someone's saying, think how overwhelmed we feel during the day. It is even harder for our kids. I no longer feel guilty to sit and read. Yes, yes. I love that, Tracy. I love that for you, and I know that that makes a huge difference. So let's talk about difficult conversations because this is where you're going to be able to build those boundaries to build your joy every single day. Um, so Can anybody share a conversation they had in their minds that they would like to have, but they don't feel like brave enough to have it?
Maybe how to get more help from a spouse. You don't want to nag. You don't want to be that person, but gosh, maybe there's more that they could be doing, and that's kind of a tough conversation.
It is a tough conversation.
Hmm.
And I have those with my husband all the time. Like, hey, I'm doing all the cleaning. What would it look like if you would help us well? Um,
I don't know that anyone's willing to share what they wish they could say in their daily lives. So, what are some other examples that you have seen?
I think for difficult conversations for all of us are different. I work a
Hmm.
lot with people caring for aging parents, and one of those conversations that everybody avoids are talking about death and dying. That is a conversation that people don't want to have. Um,
That's true.
Even for our kids, maybe talking with Michelle, like probably you've experienced this. Like people have, a lot of people don't plan and don't come and plan um for to talk about financial affairs because it's hard.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
okay,
yes.
you're
Holly
bringing up
says,
into a confrontation, and he doesn't want to face reality. Okay, I love this because that gives me something to talk about. So let's talk about like those conversations. First of all, we all have, and I know we all have one conversation. The thing with conversations or with the difficult conversations, there are a lot of conversations that feel normal to all of us. And we don't care. People that I work with, like death doulas, they feel themselves like so good talking about death and dying. It is their everyday conversation. For others, um it's harder. I'm way after that, I think, in the presentation. Um, so one of the things that we need to understand is that a lot of times we come and we have different conversations. I and talk going through Holly's example, that the father of her kids, he doesn't want to face reality. In this case, what Holly would want to know is what is his perspective? We all have different perspectives to the same problem. Um, I'm not going to go political, but if we were to talk politics, how come certain presidents bring us joy and then the other half of the population hate the same person? Um, so independently of what our perspectives are, that proves that we have different perspectives regarding people, problems, everything. The first step of a difficult conversation is to understand where the other person is coming from. Are they coming from a place of what are their perspectives? When we try to understand their perspectives, then we can open our umbrella. So the first step is to go and have a conversation to understand what the other people are thinking and just be curious about it. Ask a lot of questions. Be curious. Don't put your thoughts into what the other person is telling you. Just listen. There are times in which people don't want to have that conversation on, or they don't want to share. Um, I agree with that, Holly. I hope that these will bring you some clarity in terms of like how to manage those conversations. So let's start by understanding what the other person, where they're coming from. I'm pretty sure that both of you, as the parents of your kids, want the best for them, and that is common ground. Um, I don't think any of you would like to see them suffering or in pain or homeless. So you both want the best for your children. So that is a place to start, and it's great. There's people that don't even have that. So let's be curious and start that conversation. The second step is to build that conversation. A lot of the times we have a conversation and we are like, these are my perspectives, and I want everybody to believe what I'm believing. Yes, but you can't change other people's thoughts. So,
Mhm.
um, it's good to start with like, okay, what are the things that, uh, what can I say? How can I build this conversation to get what I want? And when planning that conversation, we need to be very clear on what we want. Having clarity of what we want from whatever we're gonna say will make that conversation successful. I would like to fill in the blank. And here I want to pause for a little bit because I usually use this example. Um, the parent is driving the car and it's not safe for him to still be driving a car. And we all know that the driving is an issue. So the kid wants to take away the car keys so there's not an accident and everybody's safe. And the parent doesn't want to give away the keys because then he's giving away his liberty, his freedom of do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. So we're coming from very different perspectives. And how do we bridge that? So coming from, the more questions we ask, the better we understand the other people's perspective. And now we know what we want. We want our parent, or in this case, in Holly's case, we want the best for her children. So knowing his perspectives and understanding my own perspectives, I can build that conversation. A great way of sharing. Now that you have gathered all this information from the other part, now it's your turn to share information about you and your perspectives. And you can start, but I have heard you regarding this topic. I would like for you to hear my perspectives. And you can build rules about that. I don't want you to interrupt me. And you share your perspectives. I see these things this way. And you have a problem. So how do you bridge? How do you make dad have freedom? If that's the issue, then the problem is not the car keys. The problem is how do we get dad from place A to B to C to D through all of the alphabet and then back home safe? That is the issue. If the issue is not about freedom, but about power, then how do we keep dad having power over a car in a safe way? And so we start building different solutions. The problem with the difficult conversations and with a lot of conversations is that we just go into one solution. We think that whatever we have thought about A, that's exactly how it should be. And maybe we want to think about other ways of solving. So when we have 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 different ways of solving that issue that we want to solve, we're going to find common ground with the other person because we have all these options. So that is part of preparing. And then the third part is having the conversation. Being brave, that is the
Hard.
hardest. You need to prepare to be brave. And then another thing, the magic of this is that when you're just going to have the conversation, a lot of people just block, like, how am I going to say this? But when you already know, you have practice, you have put all your thoughts, and then you go and have that conversation. You go to the real thing that you want to accomplish. And it's just go through your notes. One thing that I do want to share with everybody is that you're allowed to walk away from that conversation. I give you permission to say this is not going the way we want it, and this conversation is over. I am giving you all permission to do that. Um, you can choose to walk away. If there is not a solution, you can walk away and then try again. Um, a few months ago, I was working with a client and he was going through like, hey, I want my dad to go back. His dad had basically had given up on life. And that is really tough um
For
please say
everybody.
that, Holly. So I was talking with my client, and he was very frustrated that his dad had given up on life. And we were talking about different ways in which we could solve, like, hey, how can you bring joy into your dad's life? How can you support him, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that I told him is we can't change other people. We, with our kids, we do have certain power over them until they are 18. Um, and I guess that relationship goes throughout life. We still feel that we can share or advise or whatever, but we can't change and we can make other people be different. So just consider that if there is no solution, then you have to accept other people's decisions. And I know for in your case of having children, maybe that solution, maybe for Holly, it means that she's gonna make decisions for herself and for her kids without including the dad. Or maybe he wants to be part of it. But that can be a solution as well. This is what I'm going to build. And just be brave enough to say, like, well, if they don't want to be part of this, then I'm good with that.
Mhm.
The only caveat to that is if there's a real risk of someone dying or something extreme, then something must be done. But if there's no risk for that, let's just be open to saying or taking another road. Any questions that you might have? We have 6 more minutes, so I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, everybody, here's the Facebook, Instagram, and email where you can reach out to Tum Coeur, which is your company, Isabel. What does that mean?
Um, it means heartbeat. So Tum is like the beat of a drum, and coeur is heart in French.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think, we've gotten some really great takeaways today and ideas of things And that, what you were just talking about, you can't control what other people are going to do or not going to do. And we see that in working with our clients at Consolidated Planning Group because, maybe they'll say, well, my spouse doesn't truly believe that our child has a need or doesn't think that we need to look at our finances because they want to, maybe they're procrastinating, maybe they're scared to look into things and find out where your family really is. But you can't control what they're going to do. So do it yourself. Find joy in what you're doing. Find that moment of peace and clarity and that deep breath and that heartbeat when you can and where you can. And if they follow along with you, that's great. And if they don't, that's on them. I think I read something, Let Them is this book that is out now, or this theory and way of thinking. Let them do their thing. You do your thing. Thank you, Susan Mel Robbins. Let them do that. You do you, and you focus on what you need to get done and what you want to have done. Um, so again, thank you so much, Isabel. I hope that people today will take some of your advice and reach out to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your groups that you form, the communities that you're working on forming for caregivers?
Of course. So a few weeks ago, I opened a community for family caregivers. So all of you are welcome to come and join us. We I give weekly pep talks, so sort of these conversation with more specific advice. So there are times that we talk about having difficult conversations or um, how to find things that bring you joy. Um, and I have guest speakers coming as well. Um, so every week we have a pep talk and we talk about different topics regarding planning, having difficult conversations, and uh, oh, I forgot the word of self-care and connection. So how to build a network, how to get rid of guilt. So different topics that happens every week. I'm working on getting my program into the community as well. So you can go that on demand. You can check that out. And I go through 5 different steps to get everything planned and get everything in place. I go deeper into difficult conversations, so that is there as well. And obviously, it's the community. You can connect with other people going through the same journey as you are. I find that the reason why I opened the community is because my clients were really struggling. And last year, I was doing labs, like the program I call it.
Mhm.
And I noticed that the people were coming every week and then they were connecting with each other and becoming friends outside. I even have a card from one of my clients saying thank you because she had made a really good friendship with another of my clients. So that's exactly what the community is there for. The community is there um, to make groups, to share with you everything. I'm also on LinkedIn if you prefer that. But yeah, please feel free to connect with me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to share with you whatever I can, or we can jump on a call or a call. Yeah, we can jump on a call and talk more about your needs and what you're expecting from this journey, because I know it is definitely a very lonely journey. So thank you so much, everybody, to join and share your perspectives. I know it requires a lot of courage to do that when we're talking about these topics. So thank you everybody
Yes.
who were brave enough to share about you.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Isabel, and everybody who joined in. I mean, just the fact that you're taking the time out of your day to try and learn for your child, to try and take this is self-care. So I just want to give everybody here a round of applause for taking this hour for yourself and taking care of yourself. You're doing so much better than you probably think you are. We are here for questions and comments. Reach out to Consolidated Planning Group for your free consultation or to Isabel and her company, Tum Coeur. Um, and we are definitely here to help you going forward along your journey. Everybody, thank you so much. You'll receive these slides and a link to the recording later on today. So thank you again, Isabel, for being here with us and for everybody who watched. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.